Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people, shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future.
All great.
Evolution. This is the future.
All great.
Evolution.
All grit. All right. Happy New Year, everybody. Brand new Lions, brand new year, brand new Lions. That's what it is. That's what it is, and I don't give a rip what Mr. Nick Wright says either, man. I had a chance to listen to a few things today, and we've got some news to talk about tonight. So you know your boy Will Rock said that Alex Anzalone was going to get activated this week, right? You heard me say it. How many times? Anzalone is back. He is back, but he's probably not going to play this weekend, but I am so happy that he is back. That is such the big news that we needed today. We needed to hear it. That linebacker group has been doing everything that they can, but man, they just haven't been able to do enough. But I'm glad to see that we get two captains back in the same week. Well, Jalen was back last week, and now Alex Anzalone, he is here. So let's get right into Alex Anzalone's news, if you will, injury update. So he did return to practice today, and the elevation or evaluation window, if you will, has been opened. So if you guys remember, he broke his forearm back in the Jacksonville game when he was tackling somebody out of bounds, and Malcolm Rodriguez came in to shore up the tackle and somehow pinned Alex's arm, and it snapped. So he is back, but he's been on injured reserve now and working toward getting back ever since. And here he is. So over the past few weeks, there's been a lot of rumors. There's been some leaks. I am one. I leaked. I probably shouldn't have. Surrounding his potential return, and here he is. He's back. He's back today. Dan Campbell last week was optimistic about Anzalone getting back. And he said, we'll see. He said he's doing well. He's close. He's really close. And then even, when was this? The 31st, I think it was after the 49ers game. He kind of said the same thing, that he's close. He's not quite ready, but he's close. But we knew, Dan knew he was coming back. It's good to see we got Iffy back, right? Iffy's been playing in a good role, moving up in the box. But they did have a coordinating move today. Whether it's coordinating or not, I don't know yet. Haven't read enough yet. But Jamal Adams was cut from the practice squad. So that tells me something else is happening here. They're making room for something somewhere. Whether it's going up or coming down, something's going on. I just haven't dug in just yet. So anyway, Dan Campbell today said about Alex Anzalone, he said he'll be out there running around today. So we'll see how he goes or how he does. It's really going to be tomorrow is going to be the really big day for us to see where he is at, talking about potential for this weekend. So look, I'm doubtful. I'm really doubtful for Alex this weekend. I mean, it would be great to see him out there, but to be honest, the fact that he's able to practice, that's all that we needed right now, because Alex can play the game. He's been one of the better linebackers in the league. He's been one of the best linebackers on this team, if not the best linebacker on this team for the past 4 seasons. 3 seasons. No, 4 seasons. Has it been 4? Wasn't he here in 21? I think he was. But anyway, he's back. I'm glad he's back. And this is only going to elevate that linebacker room from, many different facets, right? I don't know if Alex has been traveling with the team. I don't know if he's been on the sideline. I really haven't paid attention, and I probably should have. I haven't heard anything, quite honestly. I haven't seen any write-ups. Haven't seen a whole lot of pictures with Alex. So you guys tell me in the chat and in the comments later, have you noticed Alex around the team, traveling with the team, and being part of these wins and the one loss that we've had recently? Because I didn't notice it. So let's just say he hasn't been around as much. This is huge with him on the sideline. Huge to get these guys going so that he can tell them what he sees too. As you guys know, with Malcolm Rodriguez out, a lot of us, well, let me rephrase that. Some of us doubted that Malcolm was going to make the roster this year. I was one, because I thought that there were some other guys that were pushing, and that I thought Malcolm would be like the last guy, if not the first guy in the practice squad, right? And man, did he really surprise the hell out of all of us this year with his play. I'm never doubting Malcolm again, ever. And the only reason why I did is because last year, he just didn't play a whole lot. He was playing offense just to get snaps. Played a lot of special teams. So this year, I just didn't expect it. I thought the Lions were going to continue to add, good depth, which they did. Everybody came back to the practice squad after cuts. So anyway, welcome everybody into the chat tonight. I'm going to get back to doing some nightly shows at least once a week. I know there's a lot of you that used to watch Off the Cuff and a lot of the night shows that I just haven't been able to do health-wise. It's just hasn't been right. But it's a new year, so I'm going to try to stay a lot more healthy and continue to fight and battle my way through this. It ain't going to drag me down again in 2025. It's not happening. 24 was hard. So I want to try to do some night shows, get you guys back into a schedule so that we can have some fun. I know we only have, 5 weeks, 6 weeks or so of NFL left, but this show's not going away. We're going to be staying busy 365, just not when, of course, got to have some vacations in there, right? But hopefully we'll have some people filling in. So here we go. We got Peter Van Larhoven. He's in the house tonight. We got Better the Hunt. Hope you're doing well. Randy, hope you're getting better. And who else we got in here? D. Wilson. Is that a new name? D. Wilson, are you new? I haven't seen that name before. Doesn't mean that you haven't listened from the background, but I haven't seen you in the chat before, so welcome in. Gregory Lewicki, are you new too? B's 9, you're not new. You're green. J Mommy's in the house. It's me not using the house. King SJ, of course. Anyway, let me know if you guys are new, because we just had a whole bunch of new subscribers in the last 24 hours. The evidence video that I did blew up. And I expected it to, honestly, because a lot of you watched I could tell from the comments, a lot of you were having the same thoughts that I was. And those of you that joined during the live stream, during the game play-by-play, I was questioning it then. Some of those hits just look like they were intentional. Now, there may be a little bit of a stretch with, the pregame speech and the verbiage that he used, but, man, the verbiage that he used, and then you watch it and watch his actions on the field. If 1 + 1 = 2, it was 2. They were doing exactly what they said that they were going to do. They wanted to hurt the Lions. That's intent to me. And the hits that some of our guys took are definitely illegal, not flagged. Very disappointed in the refs and the NFL. Very disappointed. Haven't heard anything yet either, as far as if there's going to be any fines coming down. But like I said in the video, if you guys haven't watched it, you got to watch it. There's a lot of good evidence in there. Like I said in the video, if that's Brian Branch, he's ejected. He's ejected if he smiles wrong. So, come on, man. I was just, it was tough to see. It was tough to put all that together. Casey says, look to see if any fines drop in the next 5 to 7 days. Yeah, I hope they all get a letter in the mail. To be honest with you. Niners fans saying Kirby should be suspended. Okay. I didn't see Kirby do anything in that game. And let's talk about Kirby for just a moment. The NFL's made it really hard for these guys to tackle. Right? You can't hit here. You can't hit there. It's from, shoulders to knees. Well, no, it's not knees. It's mid-thigh. And then I think people get, confused a little bit from what you can't do on the offensive line and where you can block versus how you can tackle. And then they got rid of the hip drop tackle. But these safeties or these corners, I mean, they're like giving up 80, 90 pounds on some of these tight ends. You're not tackling them at the waist when they're running full speed downhill at you. You got to take an angle. As long as you hit them somewhere above the knee in that thigh region, you're good. Or if you tackle them, at the ankle, there's nothing wrong with that either. Sometimes those tight ends, they leap and they try to jump as you're tackling so that they can avoid the tackle. And that's what makes it worse. So it's not intentional, I don't think, or at least I don't feel. It's just the way that it ends up. And slow motion makes everything look bad. But I will tell you, slow motion did not make these hits against the Lions versus the 49ers look bad. They were bad. I don't care if you watch it in full motion or slow motion. They were terrible. You can't deny that. I don't see Kirby taking out people's heads like that. At all. Period. I don't think that the Lions are coached to do that. And I'm not saying that they were coached to do what they did against the Lions. But man, they had a plan. And that was one of the toughest games, physical-wise, I think the Lions have had all season. So. Sorry, Gunner's trying to get on the show tonight. He's got to grow a little bit. He's got to get a little bit taller. Bees9 says basically for making Jennings sit down and be humble. There you go. There you go. Look, Kirby shouldn't have been suspended for that, man. I mean, yeah, it was unsportsmanlike. It was, after the whistle, right? After the play. But what was going on before that? Terrion Arnold was legit on his back getting choked out. The ref was just like this, looking over top of him. Throws the flag and nothing else. Like, what was he thinking? I'm sorry. And I don't mean to rehash the whole video, but he should have went to the lead ref and said, hey, man, that dude was choking out Terrion. This needs to get looked at. You need to call up to New York or whatever you need to do. You need to stop play, get this figured out. That tells me that sideline judge or back judge or whoever he was clearly didn't care. Had an agenda that night. That's my take. Whether it's true or untrue, we'll never know. Kingdom Citizen, that's a new name. Welcome in tonight. Says 49ers thought that they were going to do something, and then they got smacked. Restore the roar. The roar is restored. It is fully restored. 1,000%. We are back. Finally. Now, Curb's not suspended. We're just talking about what happened there, Michael. Curb's not suspended. I'll tell you one thing that hasn't changed in 2025 is my allergies are still going full bore. All right. I got a little agenda tonight myself. So let's get into some action here. First, let's start with Jamal Adams. So the Lions, obviously, we're in desperate need of some warm bodies, according to Pro Football Network. I mean, that's not a lie. Adams was released today from the Lions practice squad. Adams, 29 years old, former first-team All-Pro. But this could represent the end of the line for him. Is he done? I don't know. Who knows if he'll come back? But obviously the Lions defense really can't afford to cut anybody at this point. My question is why? And if we don't know why right now, there has to be something on the way. They're making room for something, and I just don't know what, because I have not, I have not looked at the practice squad roster. I have not looked at the regular roster. I haven't seen anything pop up. But man, I thought he did well when he was here, at least, for what he could do. But something's got to be on the way. Next up, we already talked about Alex Anzalone. Let me get my sheet up for the night. I want to talk about this Nick Wright dude. I've never really gone after this guy. I really haven't ever said much about the crap that he spews. But I have a little bit of a retort to this guy. I'm going to bring in the audio. At least I think I am. Yeah, I'm going to bring in the audio. Let me do this. Oh, there he is. Look at that dude looks like a crackhead. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to be mean like that. Look at that beautiful face. He looks like Jesus, doesn't he? He must be right. I mean, his last name is Wright. I'm just kidding. I'm just having fun. No, Kirby's not suspended, Jody. That's just someone was talking about that Kirby should be suspended for his actions, or thought that, the 49ers thought that he should be for shoving Jennings. But I mean, that was the least of what went on that night, Real quick in here, Peter Van Larhoven mentioned Yannick. So talking about practice squad and elevations and guys getting released. So this Yannick Ngakoue, look, I've heard some rumblings. The other day the Lions also put in a waiver request and they were not awarded. I forget the guy's name. Hold on. It was Mathis or something like that. Yeah. Fidarian Mathis. Never heard of the guy. So the Lions put in a waiver claim for him. Had to be December 29th, December 30th, somewhere in that range. So they put in a waiver claim. He was a former Commanders defensive tackle. He was released over the weekend, last weekend. And 3 other teams with waiver priority also claimed him ahead of the Lions, which is good, right? So if they put in a waiver claim ahead of the Lions and then they were awarded, if one of them was awarded, which they were, well, that just throws them to the back of the line now, if I understand the waiver priority right. They are now behind the Lions. So that helped us with anything else that's going to be available here in this next week. Mathis was a 2022 second-round pick out of Bama. So clearly Brad Holmes knows this guy because he studies Bama. He loves Bama. He loves the Southern schools, which is, something we've always talked about. When were the Lions going to start dipping into the SEC and start dipping into some of these Southern schools? It seems like we never really did. It was always Northern, Midwestern, or West, or Upper Eastern schools. We never really went South. We never were loaded with a bunch of Southern football players, whether they're from the South or played football in the South. But, down there you get to play all year, all around. Anyway, so waiver claims process in the same order as the current NFL draft standings, and the Jets sitting at number 7 were the first team on the list to put in a claim, and they got them. The other teams that also put in a claim were the Bengals, the Texans, the Lions, and Detroit is at 30th in the waiver claim priority. So, whoever comes available next, we're still not really going to have a good opportunity to pull them in. So the Lions have been active. Let's just put it that way. Lions are active on trying to do something. Now, Yannick Ngakoue, there's been a lot of talk about him over the last 2 years. A lot of channels talk about him, thought that he would have made a great fit for the Lions in free agency. I never thought that he would fit in free agency. He hasn't. Clearly, the Lions haven't made a run at him. But now, in the situation that the Lions are in, does he fit? I think that there's room for the guy. I think he would help the team. I just now question on whether or not he's the right fit to the Brad Holmes culture and the Detroit Lions identity. Is he going to fit into that locker room? So I don't know. My personal take on this is I don't think it's going to happen. That's my personal take. But we need somebody. We do. And to be honest with you, watching the defense this last weekend, we're in a little bit of trouble, right? But how much of that was just a front from Aaron Glenn? How much of that was just, vanilla scheme, don't show a whole lot, let's just try to get out of this game healthy and move on to the biggest week, the biggest showdown, a true showdown in Motown game, week 18 versus the Vikings. This is the biggest game of the season. Not just for the Lions, but it could be the biggest game, the most watched game in the NFL to date. It's going to be a big game, and I will be there. 1,000%, I will be there. So Yannick Ngakoue, let's see. He joined the Patriots in November after he was waived by the Ravens. So why didn't the Lions do something back then is my question. In his 9-year career, he's played for Jacksonville. He's played for the Raiders. He's played for the Vikings. He's played for the Colts, and he's played for the Bears. So he's kind of been around the block a couple of times. He has 238 total tackles, 72 TFLs, and 70.5 sacks, and 21 forced fumbles in his career. So absolutely, the guy would help this defense. Absolutely. If the Lions have a chance to bring him in, honestly, they should probably jump at the chance. I just don't know if he's going to make a fit, but we'll see. if the Lions get an opportunity, they may take it. They absolutely may take it. All right, let's take a run at this this Nick Wright guy. I'm going to bring in his audio real quick, and then let's get into it.
And not only was the decision not vindicated, his own answer undercuts it. Wow. He says one of the reasons we wanted to play was to clean some things up, which last time they played, this team defensively didn't look good, looked better than this.
Yeah.
And we know the offense is awesome. We know Ben Johnson has an endless supply of trick plays. Some he came up with on his own. Some he took right out of the Chiefs playbook of the lateral.
Dying to
like which is great. And that, by the way, I was watching this game with my 11-year-old Deanna, who's kind of becoming a football fan. And I said, when you're an adult, I bet that is a standard NFL play. The throw it short, lateral for the extra yards. Yeah, I think that train is coming down the tracks over the next few years.
Pro lateral.
And it's right now defenses are so attuned. So that's great. But I don't think they needed to work on that. And what they did accomplish was the following, neither of which is positive. One, further evidence that this defense is awful. And I know if we set the line of demarcation at the Hutchinson injury, it looks fine.
Right.
And they did recover from that. Really, they dealt with it. But the last 4 weeks, once the injuries piled up, once they lost another key defensive lineman, that's what they've been defensively. And I'm horrible. And that opponent passer rating number is horrible. And that opponent points per game number, of course, would be the worst in the league. And the other thing they accomplished last night was guarantee that instead of going into the biggest regular season game in Lions franchise history and one of the biggest regular season games in NFL history with key guys on extra rest, they guaranteed they go into the game with the entire team on short rest. And how much does that matter? Well, the first matchup where they hit the game-winning field goal with 15 seconds left was literally as close as any game in the NFL all season. Passing yards, 3 off. Rush yards, 5 off. Third downs, giveaways, identical. Time of possession as close as you can get without it being dead even. So I just think it was a mistake. I don't think they gained anything tangible, and I know they lost tangible rest. So I think it's a mistake.
All right. Oh, I don't even know where to begin. Here, let me adjust my brim, Mr. Nick Wright. What does he say here? Let's start out with a standard NFL play. When his, what do you say, 13-year-old daughter is a little bit more grown, the hook and ladder is just going to be a standard NFL play. Is this dude just, does he smoke some of the best stuff out there? Because the hook and ladder is not an easy play. It takes a lot to go right to pull it off because the guy throwing the ball right after he's caught it has to be in a perfect position. Everything has to go right. That is not a standard NFL play. If it was a standard NFL play, every team would be using it at least once or twice a season. Come on, dude. But why bring your daughter into the conversation about a hook and ladder play? It just didn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. All right, second statement. Further the evidence by playing, again, all the starters versus the 49ers, furthered the evidence that the defense is awful. Okay? Defense didn't have a great night. Absolutely, they didn't have a great night. Let me bring up some stats here while we talk about all this, because I'm curious. Right now, the Lions are the 7th best defense in the NFL. They have averaged 20 points or less, points per game given up against, right, the defense, the entire season. They were top 5 for the majority of the season, probably 85% of the games, roughly to date, 85% of the games, the Lions are right around 17, 18 points per game that they were giving up. Before Hutch, after Hutch, it didn't matter. I don't know why he brought, Hutch up as the line of demarcation. Okay, stick a line in. At Hutch's injury, that was the biggest, shoe to drop. But we've lost 13 more shoes after that. That wasn't just the only injury that we've suffered. And with every injury, the Lions ripped off 11 wins in a row. And it wasn't just because the offense was going crazy. I mean, there was a couple of 50 burgers in there. Did he forget that the Lions held multiple teams without a touchdown? That wasn't the offense doing that. That was the defense. Yeah, they might have been trash teams, or at least not great teams. But this is the NFL. It's not easy just to hold a team to a couple of field goals. So he's sitting there saying that the defense is awful. Okay, look, the defense has some holes. It does. It's not like the 49ers had a bad offense. Yeah, they had some holes too. They had a banged up offensive line, but they still had some playmakers. The Lions are down a lot. I mean, just about everybody on that defense has gone through it this season. And everybody but David Montgomery that the Lions have lost been on the defensive side of the football. All of our depth, 6 of our starters, and we still don't have the majority of them back yet. And we're not going to have the majority of them back yet. Like Alex Anzalone might be the last one. Carlton Davis, there's an outside chance. Way outside. Okay, Hutchinson injury, he says, was a line of demarcation for the defense. I get it. You know, again, that's when it started with the injuries. And since we lost to Lee McNeil, look, the Lions have been playing fairly well. I mean, they just held a couple of teams to less than 60 yards of rushing. So it's not like they're terrible. Yeah, the pass game, the Lions have been giving up some yards. But that could also just be the type of scheme that they're running. Against the Bills, we knew that was going to be a boat race. It was just whoever had a little bit of extra gas at the end was going to finish that game out. Both. I mean, why aren't you saying the same thing about the Bills? The Bills have been giving up a ton of points all season. The Lions have a separation of 200 points. 200 points this season. The defense must be doing something right. And as far as pressure and sacks and everything else, Lions are like right in the middle of the league as far as stats are considered. Defense right now. Let me pull it all up for the regular season. As a team, is what I want. All right, so right now, as of week 17, through week 17, your Detroit Lions are 22nd as far as defensive yards given up. So we're giving up about 350 yards a game. We've allowed 37 TDs this season, which if you look at, all the other top teams in the NFL, okay, the Eagles allowed 32. The Chiefs have allowed 32. The Niners allowed 44, even though they're a terrible team this year. Got to throw them in there. The Texans, they've allowed 41, and they have one of the best defenses and healthiest defenses out of all the teams. And they've allowed more touchdowns than the Lions have. The Packers have allowed 36. The Commanders have allowed 44. The Steelers have allowed 38. The Chargers have allowed 29. They may have one of the better defenses. The Ravens have allowed 38. The Broncos have allowed 32. The Vikings have allowed 33. And your Detroit Lions have allowed 37. And you know what? The majority of those, the difference here is the Bills game. That was the worst game that we've had all season points-wise. So we're not that far off from the top 10 teams in the NFL as far as how many touchdowns we're allowing. As far as yards, I mean, that's a conflicted stat because if you're giving up a ton of yards on the kickoff, they're going to have a shorter distance to go with the offense, which means they may not have to put up a ton of yards. Make sense? I think it does. Passing defense. Yep, the Lions have had a very bad passing defense again this season. They rank 31st, but they've only allowed 18 touchdowns as a defense. They've allowed a lot of yards, but you get us into the red zone and we shut you down. The Chiefs, in passing, have allowed, where'd it go? 20 touchdowns. The Lions, 18. Why is he not talking about the Chiefs? They've allowed more touchdowns than us. They've given up only 38 yards less than the Lions. I don't think that's a huge deal. I really don't. The Ravens, they are the 30th ranked passing defense. They've allowed 248 yards. So they're neck and neck with us, and they've allowed 26 touchdowns this season. 8 more than your Detroit Lions. The Vikings, an amazing defense. Again, they've allowed 243.6. They're 28th. And they've allowed 23 touchdowns this season. Lions ain't looking so bad to me, right now, are they? Technically, we got a better defense than the Vikings and the Ravens as far as touchdowns allowed. Broncos, they've allowed 22 touchdowns. They're ranked 25th. Look, I'm not scared one bit of what's going to happen in the playoffs. A lot of these teams have given up a lot of touchdowns or a lot of yards. And it's what I've been saying for a very long time. Recent NFL history will tell you it's been offenses that win Super Bowls. You'd have to go back to last season where the Chiefs had a better defense than they did offense. And then you'd have to go all the way back to the 2015 Broncos where the Broncos had a better defense and a better offense. All the other Super Bowls surrounding that 15 years from then till now has been better offense versus defense. And it's not even close. It's just not. I'll get back into the chat here in just a moment. Rushing defense. Well, that's where your Lions are doing great. We are the third best rushing defense in the league. We've allowed on average 97 yards of rushing this season. 18 touchdowns. The Ravens are the number 1 team allowing 81.6, and they've allowed 12 touchdowns. The Vikings have allowed 88.1. They are the second best rush defense. They've allowed 9 touchdowns. So the only difference between us and the Ravens and the Vikings, and even the Chiefs, is touchdowns. We've allowed a few more touchdowns running the ball than they have. But I think you're seeing a commonality here. The teams that are really good this season, they've all sucked in the pass game. They're all doing great in the run game. You just have to find that happy medium. You have to, find what works for your team. You give us our defense from week 7 forward, and you keep everybody healthy, these numbers wouldn't even be close right now. We'd be the number 1 defense in the league. And I'm not even kidding. I think that we would absolutely have the number 1 defense in the league. As far as scoring defense, Lions are ranked 8th. Right now, we've allowed 20.8 points per game. Total TDs we've allowed this season is 37. It's pretty damn good. The Lions were up, towards the top of the league this entire season. The Chiefs, they're number 2. The Eagles are number 3. The Vikings are number 4. Broncos are number 5. So the teams that are doing well, that statistic is what matters most. And many of you that have been following this channel for a while, you know my magic number. On defense, you cannot allow more than 20 points per game. You just can't. You're going to win a ton of ball games if you can keep teams under 20 points. And the Lions have done that the majority of this season. And that is why we have 14 wins right now. We have to get this number back down if it's even possible. If we can keep some points off the board versus the Vikings, then this number comes back down. But like Dan Campbell said a few weeks ago, he doesn't care about the stats anymore. He just wants to win the game. And I think that's what we have to remember, is we just need to win the game. So my next point's here on Nick Wright. Once injuries piled up, the Lions have been terrible. Tell me another team that has suffered this many injuries on one side of the football and they haven't had a bad game or two. The Lions have only had 1 bad game or 2. Not a ton since week 7. The teams that have even come close to this many injuries are the teams that are sitting at 5-9 or 5-10 or 5-11. You get my drift here? They're the teams that aren't even close to sniffing the playoffs. Lost tangible rest. Okay, well, Nick, I don't know if you know this, but you can only rest 6 guys. So you can't just move a bunch of guys down to the practice squad and then rest, 6 guys as far as a healthy scratch and plan to get a ton of rest for your team. It's just not possible. It's just not. Now, the Lions beat the team that booted them from the Super Bowl last season, the 49ers. They needed to exact their revenge and complete the tour, which was Dallas, Thanksgiving, finally notching a win, and the 49ers. And they got it done. The Lions stayed relatively healthy in this game. The Lions are what we call a vibes team, right? They rely on the love of the ultimate competition, right? In the big game under the big lights. The Lions are 10-2 in prime time. They're 8-0 on the road. They vibing right now. They're doing fine. You don't want to screw that up. As much as a lot of us wanted to see a little bit of rest for some of these guys, more of a rotation, this game didn't allow us to do that. But at least the Lions hung in and they won a very gritty game. Another test going into the biggest test this week 18, where we've been blowing everybody out, boat racing everybody. And then this time, just like the Vikings game, they found a way to win and continue to use every asset they had to figure it out. Now, calling out the defense, well, I guess, this is not the same team it was 4 weeks ago. It's not the same team it was 8 weeks ago. The fact the Lions have found a way to win with all of these injuries speaks enough volumes to me that prove to me that the Lions have a plan. And that plan is to continue to win. And honestly, do you really think that Dan Campbell and AG feel that the defense is going to win games for them right now? I mean, honestly, do you really think that they feel that way? I think Dan Campbell does, but probably not, is my thinking. But do you think that they're just going to go tell their players, hey, just lay down in week 17. Let's kind of just get through this. We can't have any more injuries or we won't win another game the rest of the season. Hell no, he's not saying that. He's saying go out there and fight and go do what you got to do to win this game. Here's the biggest reason why I feel what the Lions just did this last Monday night was huge. We need a few guys to step up on defense, especially for the playoffs. When your guys have confidence, they play better. Kirby Joseph got his mojo going again. He picked off Purdy twice. He had his hands almost on 4 balls in this game. But again, we know one thing is for sure, that when the Lions need every player playing at their best, and when they need to have some confidence, they play better with confidence. Kirby and this secondary are really feeling it right now, and they needed that lightning bolt of confidence injected by Kirby. That was huge. Brian Branch gets benched. Kirby comes in and takes the ball away. That was huge. Totally changes the game. And then there's this guy, Craig Reynolds. He gets some action. He shows that he can improve, that he can step up. He filled in for Montgomery in a way that I don't think a lot of us expected. Played a great game. I am no longer worried about the duo there behind Jared Goff. If Montgomery can't make his way back, I think that Craig Reynolds is going to do just fine. So that's my retort. That's my answer to Nick Wright. I think you're 1,000% wrong. I think what you're doing is just for clicks. And you don't have, 2 brain cells in your brain right now. If you honestly think that the Lions shouldn't have gone in with everything that they had to try to win this game, instead just take the game off. I just don't think that's the way you play football. So that's it for me on that subject. All right, getting back into this chat here. Black Lion, that looks like a new name. Nothing to see here. That looks like a new name. Welcome in again. Let me know in the chat or in the comments if you guys are new. I would appreciate it. Just kind of gives me an idea. Dale says, Will, anything been reported about targeting by the Niners? Dale, I haven't heard anything yet. Black Lion says, is it me or does Nick Wright have a face you just want to punch? Probably. The guy's he's an absolute clown. Just like Corey Patterson said, he says, Nick Wrong is Lord, what is that, Farquaad? I can't think of anything else this clown looks like. He does it because he knows he gets to the fans. Hey, that's part of this, right? It's part of media. You can either be an actor and you can act your way, or like me, I'm not a great actor. I'm just trying to do what I do best. Have a conversation. That's about it. Let's have a great conversation. D Nice says, can we beat the Vikings? Honestly, 1,000% we can. We did it once. We can do it again. I am not worried. They have to come to us. Now, some greedy Lions fans that are selling tickets, I'm not real happy about. If $700 or $800 makes or breaks you, sorry, but you might want to find new employment, because it's not worth it to me to give up a bunch of seats to Vikings fans and turn the tide in Ford Field. It has not happened in years. We cannot. It almost happened. I mean, there's about maybe 5% of Bills fans at the Bills game. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more Vikings in Ford Field. I really do. But I think we can win. And I'm going to get on to that tomorrow as far as the game and what do I expect from the game. But here we go. Here's the next subject that I wanted to talk about. Nothing to see here says Ford Field will be the X factor. It has been, and it has to be. Peter Van Larhoven says we need Ford Field to be crazy loud. It will be. I promise you. And Jay-Z says we need Anzo back. Nyman and Turner are our biggest weaknesses right now. Nyman, I think, is okay. Turner's a liability. He bites way too much. Way too much on play action. He's biting way too hard. He's getting turned around. But AG can fix that. He can fix that just with the scheme. So if he bites, so what? You got another guy behind him. So here's what I'm worried about. The Lions had one of the earliest bye weeks in the NFL. Week 5. Or I should say, this is what a lot of people have been worried about. It was one of the mailbag questions that I had this week. And it was about, the question was, can the Lions continue? Can they continue playing the way that they've been playing? Can they finish going hard all season for the next, 4 or 5 weeks that we have left? Can we make it to the Super Bowl? The answer is yes, we can. But here's what we're up against. Finishing with the 1 seed is so important. And it's way more important than I think what a lot of people are giving it credit to be. But the Lions defense is decimated. That is no secret. We talk about it every day. But the entire team is probably more exhausted than most teams right now. And that's because our bye week was in week 5. We had one of the earliest bye weeks, and that was by a wide margin compared to the other 9 playoff teams. And 6 teams are very close with the Lions as far as bye weeks, one of which is the Vikings. So when Dan let his players play, against the 49ers, he's probably looking at this too and saying, look, the Vikings are just as tired as we are. And the Vikings had to go and play this last weekend just so they could win and have a chance. So recent bye weeks, Denver, Baltimore, Washington, and Houston, week 14. So they are going to be, or should be, the most refreshed team out of all teams in the playoffs. Before that, the Bills and the Falcons, week 12. So the Bills should be second most refreshed team in the playoffs. Then week 11, you had the Bucks. Week 10, you had the Packers. Week 9, you had the Steelers. And then in week 6, you have the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Vikings. And then week 5, you have the Lions, the Chargers, and the Eagles. So the Lions by far have to be the most exhausted team out of all of these teams, but we're going up against a Vikings team that only has 1 extra week ahead of us as far as their bye week. But that's why we need the 1 seed. That is why it is so important to get that extra week of rest. And Dan's planning on it. He's absolutely planning on it. He's planning on getting the 1 seed. And I got great confidence that we're going to be able to take care of business on Sunday night. But what happens, right? What happens if we get or end up the 5th seed and we have to go on the road? And I guess when you start talking about how mentally tough the Lions are, how you go 8-0 on the road, you smash a bunch of franchise and NFL records on your way to being 14-2 at this juncture of the season, and you don't get the 1 seed, and you're a 14-3 team potentially as a 5th seed, how everything was supposed to go through Detroit, and how being a 14-win team is crushed mentally when you're not the 1 seed. So yeah, it's really important. I could only imagine if the Lions end up on the road for the playoffs, how big of a mental blow this could be to the entire team. Now, Dan has this team right. He has them in the right headspace, right? Mentally, he has them right. Physically, they're right. They're playing at a high level. But man, if we don't get the 1 seed, the Lions are going to be up against it as far as health, right? And rest. They need it. They need it with the defense that they have right now, and the offense is going to have to play lights out for the rest of the season. They could use rest, not only for preparation, but to give these guys just a week to calm themselves down a little bit. The question is the defense doing just enough to win? Is that a formula that we want to roll with? I think it can be done. I absolutely think it can be done. Corey Patterson says, I look at it like this. It was a time we would have took the 7th seed and we're happy. You ain't lying, man. At Thanksgiving, we were talking about the draft for the last 30 years. Right? At Thanksgiving, we're talking about who's going to be our coach next year. That's not us anymore. And so I hear you. Like, we just wanted to get in. That was our hope in 2022. And our hope now is that we go to the Super Bowl. Last year, we almost had that hope come to fruition. Oh, Mike P says, get ready. Our buddy from Dallas last year. No, he is not. Mike P, you better not be lying to me right now. If Brad Allen is the ref on Sunday night, I'm going to be furious. No, he is not. No, it's Brad Rogers. Brad Rogers. Mike, you about gave me a heart attack. Oh, and speaking of a heart attack, so I got a sad story. I don't know this individual's name or anything, but there's an individual that was watching the Lions game, and he was so stressed out, he ended up having to go into the hospital, had a heart attack. He was that stressed out the other night. That is what this Lions team has been doing to its fans for so long. That's why they're nicknamed the Cardiac Cats. But man, my heart goes out to that guy. But I don't know his name. I just know the story. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. So yeah, the referee assignment for, it's fitting. It's game 272. Last year we get the first game of the season, and this year we get the last game of the season. That's nuts. That's nuts. So Lions draw Brad Rogers. Let's see what this guy's all about. Brad Rogers, Week 18 matchup between the Lions and Minnesota to decide the NFC North and the 1 seed this postseason. He will be going to be Brad Rogers and his crew. So he's been a lead referee since 2019. Rogers will be officiating his 8th Lions game. Coincidentally, he has officiated 2 games between the Lions and the Vikings previously in his career as the lead ref, and Detroit is 4-3 in games officiated by him, and the Vikings are 4-2. In the 2 games between the teams he's officiated, each team has won 1 time each. The Lions defeated the Vikings 30-20 in a game officiated by Rodgers in Week 18 of last season at Ford Field, and that game was the most recent time he has officiated a Vikings game. Rodgers' crew ranked 6th in the league amongst referees with 207 penalties called this season, with an average of 13.8 per game. The home and away penalty splits are nearly even across the 15 games his crew has worked this season, as home teams have been whistled for 107 penalties, while road teams have been whistled for 100 penalties. So pretty fair shot. And that article I just read was by Christian Boer of Detroit Lions on SI. So good little take about Rodgers' crew. Has me, the heartburn a little bit lower right now, but we just never know. Nobody ever knows what's going to happen with these guys. Bees9 says, I'm tired of the heart attack games. We just have to remember it's not in our hands or control. That's true. It is very true. You like to think that it is, right? Beach Lover says, oh my God, we all were so sad. Yeah, must be talking about the gentleman that had a heart attack. He's okay, though, from what I understand. He's okay. And Beach Lover, that's a new name. Welcome in tonight. Riley O'Brien's in the house, says Lions wearing black. So, I got something for that. But I think I left it in the house. I did. I left it in the house. So, I bought the pin set in the beginning of the season, and I want to say that the last game of the year had a black lion on the pin, which means black uniforms. So, they could have changed it if they wanted to, and they can't use them in the playoffs anyway, from what I understand. So, wearing black is fitting. Back in black now. Black has its history with the Lions. Black uniforms has its history. So it'll be interesting. Does history repeat itself? Or is this team a new team, the brand new Lions, and we don't need to worry about the history, right? Wasn't that the season we went 0-16? I think it was. Oh, nobody told me I didn't get off this stupid screen. I got Nick Wright staring at me. There we go. All right. So, Fleeting EXP says no. Yeah, I don't know. Was it 2008 we wore black? I'm pretty sure it was. Dan Campbell wore black jersey too, way back in the day. Fleeting EXP says we have a 30% win rate with the Blacks. Well, let's hope that's 66% or whatever this weekend. Yeah, I'm with you there, Dale. On come playoffs, all egregious penalties should be called, but no ticky-tacky penalties. You know, things have been getting better. Speaking of ticky-tackies, things have been getting better as far as Terry and Arnold, right? I mean, he had a rough go the first 5 weeks or so of the season, but he's been relatively clean, you know, ever since. And that's another thing about Jared Goff, right? The Texans game, speaking of clean and getting better. You know, when we talk about Jared Goff, I've been a supporter of Jared this whole time. It's no surprise to you guys. I've always supported the guy. Pounded my chest for him. Through and through, I knew that Jared was going to be the dude. But back in the Texans game, he throws 5 interceptions, and he gets absolutely scalded by the Lions fans. And since that game, he's only thrown 1 interception in like 23 touchdowns. So you can't just jump on this guy, you know, whenever he just has one bad game here or there and think the whole season's lost. But everyone is just so ready to jump on him. Look what he's done since. The Lions are 14-2 headed into the biggest game of the season. Thank God we don't have the Grays anymore, Peter Van Larhoven. TA needs some MMA training to defend himself. Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on there, but that dude was on his back quickly. And I think he was probably more surprised. Like, what is this dude doing? You know what I mean? I don't think Tarian's going to let that happen again. And that Texans game, yeah, it was a great game. It was a great comeback. Absolutely. All right, well, I was going to jump on for an hour tonight. So what questions, do you guys have, or what things would you like to talk about for the last few minutes here? It is New Year. It is a happy New Year. I hope everybody that normally listens is safe and doing well. And you guys all had a good, happy New Year's Eve. I stayed home like I do every year. I don't drink, so there's no real reason for me to be out unless there's some kind of show or something that I can go watch. But Jay-Z says people out there holding their breath, turning purple, and waiting for the return of Bad Goff and SOL so they can say, I told you so. See, that's the thing that just irritates me. Like, you can have a bad game. It's okay, right? Patrick Mahomes has a bad game. I mean, Lamar Jackson has a bad game. Josh Allen has a bad game. Everybody has a bad game. It's just what you do after that game and how you correct it, I think, is the difference. But to your point, man, to say that people are just ready and waiting to say, I told you so, they are. But what's funny is I just laugh at it. Because it's like, okay, so you had one bad game? that means the other 14 wins don't mean anything? That means that they didn't have great games? How does one game ruin the other 14? Or how does 2 games ruin the other 14? Or if we lose this weekend, how would 3 games ruin the other 14? It wouldn't. It would ruin our 1 seed, but we're still in the playoffs and we're still going to motor forward. But we plan on winning Sunday night. Hands down. Corey Patterson says, I ate my crow a long time ago with Goff, but I'm not going to lie. He's been that guy and then some. Corey, if you don't think that I don't remember names, I remember names. I remember what some people say about Goff. You guys all thought I was nuts, or at least some people thought I was nuts about Goff. But I'm glad that you can stand on business and say that you ate crow, and now you're a Goff supporter, which is great, man. That's what it's all about. Z-Guard says, I know Jack has been good, but if we do have Anzo back, the leadership will make the difference. You ain't lying, Z. You are not lying, man. Having Anzalone back is going to be huge. Look, Jack has been great. He's been absolutely great. But you know what? Jack is still young. And I think that he is going to have an elevation to his game having Alex back, assuming that Alex is going to be able to go 100%. You know, his legs should be fine. His head should be fine. He was only missing, one arm for a little bit. So I'm expecting that Alex is going to be able to go all out and be a big part of this team winning, the next 4 games that they face. So that's a good point. I'm excited to see him back. All right, let me double check the news real quick before we jump out. See what's going on. We'll be back in the morning. Rise and Grind morning show is at 8 a.m. So we got Jamal Adams is gone. Anzalone is back. Uh-oh. What's this? No. Amik Robertson. Calf injury. Limited participant on today's practice. He did play 100% of the snaps, obviously, versus the 49ers. And it appears he sustained a calf injury in the process. So, man, I do not want to see Kindle Vildor in the starting position. Where is Mosley? Is this dude actually going to do something this season? Is he actually going to play? I hate the fact that we hold these roster positions open for guys that aren't even going to play. If Amik is down for this game, that is going to be a huge blow. So again, empty roster spots, empty practice squad spots mean something. Something is happening as we speak right now. I guarantee you Brad Holmes is trying to do something. And that could be for Amik Robertson. He might be out looking for another cornerback that can step in. Not only because we're down Carlton, but look, we can't have another injury to this defensive backfield. We just can't. Now, if he can step in, right? Kindle Vildor can step in. I mean, Kindle's okay, but man, does he get burned in single high safety. So I hope to goodness Aaron Glenn doesn't get stubborn and stick this guy out on an island, because I'm telling you right now, the Vikings are going to attack Kindle Vildor if he's out there. They won't throw at Terrian as much. Oh, I don't want to end it that way. Goodness. Come on, Amik. You got to be ready to go, buddy. Amik has been stellar all season. Absolutely stellar. I just got to open one more page, check one more thing, and then see what else is happening. All right, Lions coverage. Here we go. Pro Bowl rosters revealed tomorrow. Jahmyr Gibbs finished second overall in fan voting behind Travis Kelce. While flattered, he would rather be prepping for a Super Bowl in February. He says, it's cool, but we're hoping that we're not even in it, Gibbs told ESPN, laughing. Smart answer, Gibbs. It's exactly the answer we're looking for. Let's see. Really nothing else going on. That's about it. So we should know Pro Bowl voting tomorrow. And again, not like really any of us care. I think it's more of it's a notoriety thing, right? It's just, hey, our guys made it. They're cool. You know, they had a great season. But let's go to the Super Bowl. Let's do it. I don't see anything else pressing right now. We'll get back to this in the morning. Appreciate you guys all joining me tonight, all the newbies, all the new subscribers. And again, if you have not subscribed, please do us a favor. Smash that subscribe button for us. We're on our way to 10,000. That's our goal this year. We just want to hit 10,000. That was our goal all season long. We're only, 50, 60 away from handing out another mini helmet. I just gave out 5 during the live stream, Monday night. So let's get a 6th one handed out this week. You guys have a great night. Go One Pride. Go Detroit Lions. Again, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. right here on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Have a great night. Happy New Year, everybody.
Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.